I pick the knob and I lock, and the cop's like, whoever you are, unlock, you touch that door again, I'm gonna do whatever. Okay, I pick the knob again, and I go to pick the deadbolt again, the knob locks. And the guy's like, get the way of door. And I was like, okay, so I pick the door, we get it open, and there's 3 little kids sitting on the couch. And then the cop goes, why did you do that? And he goes like, I'm not supposed to open the door to strangers.
Welcome to Access Granted, a peek inside the real-life stories of physical security professionals. Now, here are your hosts, Justin, John, Ryan, and Brandon.
Welcome back, everybody. This week we want to talk to you guys about balancing security and safety. But before we dive deep too much into that, I gotta tell you the time one of my first calls going out. There's a rental company that rents out furniture, TVs, beds, and sometimes you have to go collect those things back. So the very first errands call I ever went on, I new to the whole situation, kind of intrigued by the whole deal, like, holy cow, we're meeting the sheriffs here, like, they're all vested up and everything, and I start looking around. Wait, you guys have your hands on your guns, you're wearing vests, and Justin and I are standing in front of you, in front of this door, with nothing.
Well,
So
I think it was the buildup that was the worst, right? So we get called to that parking lot in Milan.
Yes.
And we're just waiting there. And then the 2 guys we normally meet are there. And then next thing you know, some plainclothes officers show up. And they open the trunk of the 2 cops that we're normally dealing with. And they start strapping vests on and racking shotguns.
And I asked them, should I have one of those?
And they're like, oh, no, this guy's just a little violent. And worst part was, they get in there, and then 2 more undercover cars show up, and there's like 6 or 7 guys in full vests. They come up, and they're like, we're going to walk across the street here. We're going to pull up on this trailer. We're going to repo this. I don't even remember what it was at this point. We're going to repo whatever he's ordered, and then we're going to probably arrest him because he's got warrants. Right? So they all go in there. They're all super quiet, like tactical, da-da-da. And then they're like, your turn, go up there. And I'm in what we used to wear, Dickies, khaki shirts and jeans.
Dickies and jeans.
And he's like, they're all like away from the door hiding. And I have to go up to the door and open it. And I look at it, and the damn thing's broken. And so I turn the knob and throw the door open and walk away as if one of these cool guys don't look at explosions. But I'm actually scared, my butthole's clenched, and I'm walking as fast as I can. Turns out there was nobody there, but Brandon's in the background. He's got a cigarette in his mouth, and he's filming on Snapchat going, this is the coolest thing in the world. And I think that was the only time that we ever had them pull up and made that big of a deal. But I think we were going to talk about padlocks, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry.
Anyone, no, that's fine. So basically, if you don't know what a padlock is, get out in the world and learn something.
Look around.
Look around. But if you need to lock up your storage unit or your bike or your old school locker, that is a padlock. They come in many different forms. Some take keys, some take dials, some have a Rolodex.
Well,
Justin, you had a story about one,
though. Speaking of errands, my grandfather always told stories about people relocking the door when they picked it. We went to an errands call. It was a house. I believe this was in Rock Island. And I pick the deadbolt. First I go to the door. The deadbolt and the knob are both locked. I pick the deadbolt first because that's normally the hardest pick. And I go to pick the knob, and I hear a click. And it's like, I look at the cop, and I said, someone locked the door. And I pick the knob, and I lock, and the cop's like, whoever you are, unlock, you touch that door again, I'm going to do whatever. Okay, I pick the knob again, and I go to pick the deadbolt again, the knob locks. And the guy's like, get the way of door. And I was like, okay, so I pick the door, we get it open, and there's 3 little kids sitting on the couch. These 3 little kids had been locking the door on their house, and then the cop goes, why did you do that? He goes like, I'm not supposed to open the door to strangers. This kid had major cojones, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I get a ticket signed by errands. They go to repo everything. I'm not 2 minutes down the street, and I get a call from the office saying, hey, you got to go back there. There's more doors to open. And I get there, I get back, and it turns out not only were these kids just manly, their parents had locked up every refrigerator and every internal door of that house with padlocks. and I had to open like 3 or 4 padlocks. Some of them were the Rolodex ones that had like your locker combination padlock. But they were so cheap, they had a code on the back that I called the shop and they got the code. And I had to pick open like 3 or 4 more. But I was like, not only is this kid just like badass, but his parents are doing some horrible stuff. There's some weird people out there. And this kid he's not only is he just like locking the door and telling the cops he don't know who they are, he's having to deal with these really crappy parents. It was nuts. I think some of the most eye-opening experiences I had as a locksmith about other people were errands calls and evictions. You know, we have to balance the need between padlocking everything in the house to protect somebody and then also the attention to detail to make sure that people can't get in.
So with that, insecurity.
Insecurity? No, I have plenty of that.
I'm sorry. Insecurity. So kind of explain to everyone, you know, why you should have security and what you're trying to do when you tell people that you can't put a double-cylinder deadbolt and lock people in a house. I mean, for the common world, you would think that's self-explanatory, that becomes a prisoner. But for everyone that may not understand, explain why we do what we do.
Well, as a whole, I think one of the things that make us so successful in securing premises, we secure the world through a physical lens as locksmiths. So we're looking at not just, did we catch them on video? And not only did we see them come in, but how did we stop them from getting there? So for us, security starts at the envelope of the building, so the exterior. It starts with good door hardware. It starts with a solid door.
I was just going to say, having a solid door is going to be your number one foundation. Yeah, the locks are necessary, but if you don't have a door there, there's nothing stopping them, period.
But let's dive deeper. It's not just a good door. So you need a decent door to do it. But then you're going to go out to one of the home hardware stores around town or something else, and then you're going to buy the cheapest lock that you can get to put on it. So you're protecting. Go ahead, Justin. Tell them your theory on this.
This drives me nuts. You're going to buy a $45 deadbolt, or a $30 deadbolt. We do sell $30 deadbolts because we're trying to give the customer what they want, but we try to also explain to them that you're going to put a $30 deadbolt on a $300,000 house or a $100,000 house. You're not going to protect that investment very well with something that you can be kicked in every time on cops. So it doesn't make sense to me to buy that $30 deadbolt and go, yeah, I'm secure. I don't feel safe that way, right? I have 2 little girls and a wife at home, and the world we live in, sadly, is something that locksmith as a whole is something that needs to happen. The days of leaving your door unlocked and going into town because you lived on a farm are gone. But when you're looking at securing anything, home, your business, your storage unit, it starts with a good locking foundation. And sometimes it takes a little money to do that.
And that responsibility, again, falls on the owner. So in most cases, in all cases, really, you need to find a reputable business that can help you with that, rather than just going to the store and picking just any $12 deadbolt off the shelf. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Access Granted, a podcast by J&J Access and Security in association with TAG. For more information about J&J Access and Security, visit jjlocks.com.
TAG.